Okay guys, welcome to another collab video with my good mate Mr. Lacozer. How are you doing this evening, Squire?
Thanks for timing that perfectly, yeah.
Take two.
Yeah. No, keep it in. Yeah, I'll do it. Okay, I've survived getting this list done. I think for this video we really have pulled out all the stops just from looking at the games that did not make it onto this thing. Right, I just mentioned Quartet, Zybots, Rygar, these Jailbreak for Commodore 64. None of those made it onto this final 10. That says it all.
Yep, as anybody that's always watching the video, if you see the title, we have, last night Chris and I spent, I think it was 2 hours?
I think it was over 2 hours.
It was over 2 hours. The plan was to agree a 10 games and then record us talking about why these are the worst ever arcade conversions. But we spent 2 hours just debating what was going to... It wasn't so much what was going to make it in, it was what we could leave out.
It just could be left out of this thing.
It was insane. So we had, I think, 20 and we've managed to whittle it down to 10. And then we've tried to put it in some sort of order, but I think we're fairly confident that probably the bottom 5, you're going to have to be pretty hard pushed to find worse conversions.
I think so, yeah. That bottom 5, we really are talking barrel scraping gaming here.
I have to say before we kind of crack on, and I've not put it in the title, this list is based purely on 8-bit and 16-bit computers. We've not included the Mega Drive, any gaming consoles or anything at all, because you'd be there all day. But so this is basically, it's in Chris and I's opinion, this is 10 of the worst. Not 10 of the worst. It is the worst 10.
The worst, yeah.
Video arcade conversion games ever. So yeah, I'll let you kick off. In number 10, we're going to do it in reverse order from the least shite to the absolute shite. So
yeah, so we're going to really build it up for you here.
So kicking things off, Chris, what did we pick for number 10?
Right, so number 10, absolutely deserving of this. This is Renegade for the Commodore Amiga. Now, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the Commodore 64 version. I'm not even a big fan of the actual coin-op original. And when I did a review of the 64 version, I said then that the actual arcade coin-op was the worst version you could play. But I hadn't played or even seen the Amiga version at that point. The moment I did, things quickly changed.
So what is it? What is it in particular that why you hate this game so much?
Right. Well, I've got a video of it playing in the background while I'm recording here. So, I mean, let's just start with the main sprites. I think what they did with the Amiga version is they changed the storyline a bit. And instead, with the Amiga one, your main character is somebody who has serious anger issues, and he looks like he's been changing his baby's nappy, and they've decided to absolutely cover him from head to foot in shit. Because, I mean, look at it. I mean, he's just got it all down, and it's the perfect colour. So he's been covered in shite, and he's decided he's just going to go out and take it out on everybody, and he's just beating up random people he happens to bump into. So he looks awful. However, there are people in the game that look even worse. I'm sure if there are any SJWs watching, they're probably going to say, oh yeah, racist and that. But look at the black fellas in this first level. I mean, they look like mudmen. The colour is absolutely like spot on. It looks like they've been made out of clay or worse. And so everyone looks absolutely bloody awful.
I mean, I don't know. I'll be honest, I've not really played much of the arcade one, and I've certainly not played. I think I played this very, very briefly, but I'm not a big fan of the sort of art style that they've picked. Instead of going for a sort of crisp kind of sprites like, I don't know, Final Fight, whatever it is, Double Dragon, they've gone for what looks like some kind of like kid has sort of painted or drawn it with crayons. So they're quite, even the graphics are all quite blurred looking, eh?
Yeah, you can also tell from the faces that they've gone for that, anime look, because everyone has those big eyes, which really irritates them.
I know you're a big. I know you're a huge fan of anime.
Yeah. I mean, in one sense, it works because if you're playing this and you see these like come along with the big eyes, your instinctive, reaction is to want to beat the shit out of them. So it does spur you on to actually get somewhere in the game. But that is basically as close as I can get to saying anything positive about the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it just looks totally messy. I mean, I'm looking at the second level here where there's guys on motorbikes.
Yeah, it's motorcycles, which they appear on screen. I think they're travelling at about 5 miles an hour. If you have the sound effects going, they sound like they're actually on mopeds or something, or even they've even replaced the engines with like lawnmower engines or something. So it sounds as pathetic as the slow speed would have you think. When you actually get to the animation, it's, let's just say, sorely lacking.
Yeah.
Not as bad as a certain game which we'll be mentioning later on, but I mean,
the animation. Pit Fighter, that was one that didn't make the list. Well, it was on borderline, eh?
That's almost miraculous in itself that Pit Fighter didn't get on it. But it's just, it doesn't have anything going for it at all. I mean, the Commodore 64 version, which I don't like, is infinitely better than the Amiga version. The scrolling, well, for a lot of the time it doesn't scroll until you get to the far edge of the screen, and then suddenly it rather jerkily snaps along.
It's a very, very shoddy port. I mean, I think it was, quite an early Amiga game, but then Marble Madness was one of the first games I ever saw on Amiga, and it's got silky smooth scrolling, so there's really no...
Marble Madness, with you mentioning that one, I think that's as close to arcade perfect as I've ever in a conversion.
That is, so there's no excuse.
Yeah, and then I think this came out the same year, so in the first you already saw the Amiga at its best, for the time, and then this came along and you saw it at its worst.
It's, what it always looks like. It's almost like they've drawn the sprites. They've taken an A4 page. They've drawn a huge big picture of the guy, and then they've just shrunk it. And then because they've shrunk, there's been so much detail, and then when you shrink it, it just makes it look all blurry and messy.
Yeah, you can make out the occasional detail beneath the shit-covered outfit he's wearing, but you could be onto something there, because the details basically consist of the occasional pixel or something, and I'm sure when they originally came up with the sprite designs, there was more there than just a single white dot, whatever it is.
I'm just looking at, I'm on a screen here, there's a big, rather large lady throwing love hearts at you.
Yes, I suspect they're not actually meant to be these hearts or whatever, but
yeah, as you say, the frame rate in this is diabolical. When you've got somebody in the ground and you're pummeling 10 shades of what out of the person, when you're punching them, you suddenly fall over and they spring up, so they seem to be able to hit you when they're lying on the ground. So there's no real continuity between what's happening on screen and how you actually react.
Yeah, so I mean it means that if they are laying on the ground, the last thing you want to do is that move where you sit on top of them and start punching them in the face. You don't want to do that because you will suddenly just fall over for no reason at all. And
what was the controls like in this one, Chris? I remember, I'm sure the C64, you had to use keys.
Yeah.
As well as... Yeah.
Well, this one... Actually, it's a bit weird because I've managed to find two versions of the 64 where one of them, you were using keys and joystick, but I also found one where it used the fire button, so you could play it with just single joystick, no problem.
Maybe it was a hack or something. I can't remember.
I think it might have been, but it also has me wondering if they did the same with the Amiga, if there is a version that uses keys as well, or if the version that uses the actual joystick fire button is the only one. But yeah, the disc image I got is using the fire button.
Fire button, yeah. I can't.
So I suppose, if you're desperately trying to find a reason to say this is better than the Commodore 64 one, there it is. It's all done on the single joystick. That really is it.
I'm just watching. Where are we? It's. I'm just watching a video. Was it 704? If you jump to 704, the guy.
I'm ahead of you there.
The guy is pummeling a guy in a silver suit, and there's about a 5 feet gap between them. Yeah, he's hitting them and he's reacting. He's getting pummeled even though there's a big space.
Yeah. The other thing is when you have the audio going, it does the same sound effects whether you're actually hitting him or not. So you have no clue if you are actually hitting him at all.
Aye. Because I don't think you only get energy on the actual bosses, don't you? Not in the sort of the...
all the other guys.
The basic.
Yeah, it's basically right. Hit him see if he will stay down or not, and if he doesn't, you've got to do it all again. Yeah.
So yeah, all in all, a pretty woeful arcade conversion to say the least. I mean, to summarise it, Chris, why would you say it deserves a place in this list?
Because it's as big an amount of shit as your main character is wearing throughout it. So yeah, it absolutely deserves its place here.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you. I mean, it's although it was an early game, that was one of the biggest problems that kind of plagued even Atari ST as well. People they thought they didn't have to actually try. They thought, oh great, we're giving them better graphics than they're used to. We don't have to bother the fact that the scrolling is shit. We don't have to bother the fact that the animation's rubbish. The graphics look better, and this was a prime example of.
The sad thing is. Yeah, in the early days of the Amiga and the ST, it worked. That was all they needed to do, and it sold.
It sold, yeah, absolutely. So that is number 10 on our top... Sorry, I keep saying the top 10. It's not the top 10. The 10 worst ever video games. That's number 10. Moving up, or moving down one place, we have Paperboy on the Commodore 16. Now I think it's the C16/+4. Now I'm just going to go and bring it up. Now before anybody remarks and says, well, you're being a bit unfair, you're including quite a lowly spec'd machine, but I think this is on the +4 as well. Now am I right in thinking that the +4 didn't have sprites or something, but was it...
Yeah, that's right. +4 had no actual gaming hardware. I mean, in terms of the actual internals, it was basically a souped-up VIC-20 if you're wanting a gaming computer. But the thing is, programming the +4 was exactly the same as if you were programming a Commodore 16. So this game was actually written for the Commodore 16. It's just that it would work on a +4.
+4. And I think, I'm looking at this video here. It's C16/4. Am I right in thinking that was the +4 more expensive than the C64? Because that was you could buy the +4 and also the C6. I mean, that was out at the same time as the C64, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, they came out at the same time, the C16 and +4. The +4 was really aimed at the more serious, in quotes, user, which meant that Commodore really missed the point because Okay, no one ever says it, but let's face it, the only people who were buying computers in those days were gamers.
For
So
games.
bringing out a computer that, was not going to be playing games well was a complete waste of time. It's one of the reasons why it was such a flop.
Yeah, where does the Plus 4 stand in comparison to the C64? I mean, it didn't have a SID chip, did it?
No, it didn't have SID chip. It had a faster processor, and I think it was an updated version of the 6502.
Really?
I'm not sure exactly what processor it was.
So technically, the Plus 4 could have actually had a better looking game than the C64.
No, because it couldn't do hardware sprites. It didn't have any. It didn't have hardware scrolling. So a lot of the fairly standard gaming features, especially on a 64, the Plus 4 couldn't do. The only time it could do something better is if it was a game that used vector graphics.
Right, because it had a faster processor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's so processor centric.
Right, okay, got you. Anyway, let's take a look at this bad boy. So this is Paperboy on the C16. Now, when it kind of starts off, it all looks fairly promising. It all looks very, very similar to the C64 one, which, to be fair,
If you can call that promising, yeah.
To be honest, it's not. I did buy the C64 version of this.
Oh god.
It's not the greatest. I'll be honest. I am not a fan of Paperboy. Full stop. I don't really like the game.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I just don't know. I don't like the game at all. Obviously, the arcade one, it had nice cartoon graphics, great sound as well. But I wasn't a fan of the home versions. But yeah, so you think, that's fine. I've just spent the same money as my mate that's got the C64. This game is going to be pretty good. Then you get to the screen where you actually you see the houses that you've got to deliver to, and it all goes from coloured to black and white.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm maybe being a bit picky picking it up for that reason, but it doesn't bode well.
The other thing is, it's showing like 3 rows of houses. Well, where does the other rows come from?
It doesn't actually tell you what these are. I mean, one's white, one's black, one's white, one's black.
Yeah, so I can only assume the white ones you have to deliver to, and the black ones they're not subscribers. But it's just
Or it might be the other way around. It could possibly be the other way around. Who knows?
Yeah.
And looking at the graphics on that particular screen, it looks like, are they computer-defined graphics? It looks like.
I have a feeling they are. Yes, that's just using the ASCII stuff. So yeah.
So we're going to take a point off it for that anyway. Yeah. So let's get the game going. So yeah, it starts off promising. It looks wow, and then right from the off, you'll see there the guy is. It looks like he's riding a unicycle, and he's holding on another unicycle with his arms because there's a distinct gap.
Yeah.
It's 2 unicycles.
I mean, his bicycle looks long enough for it to actually be a tandem, but then you realise, the front and rear wheels aren't actually connected by anything, so he's just holding 2 unicycles there.
And instantly, you'll see when the bike gets even near to anything, you get the colour bleeding, the colour clash.
Yeah.
Now, I thought that was just a Spectrum thing. I didn't realise that was something that Commodore were going to suffer. I mean, you don't get that in any other computer that I'm aware of.
I wasn't aware of it either. I mean, I know the C16 gets it occasionally, but I've never seen it as bad as I have in this game.
So yeah, okay. Then you see there the newspaper. I don't know.
The newspaper looks more like a brick.
It looks like or a jobby with a white kind of square around it. I mean, it's like a block graphic. It doesn't really look like a newspaper. I know we're being extra picky, but anyway, yeah. So yeah,
you won't be being extra picky.
But you'll see there that I mean, if he goes near to the curb, the blue goes into it just bleeds into the graphics that are next to it, and if you even so much as go near to drain, then you stop. And then it comes up crash.
Yeah.
Even though you've not actually come into contact with it. So the sprite detection, I shouldn't say sprite because it's not sprites. The detection is a bit iffy to say the least, I would think.
to say the least. I mean, there's an almighty gap. I'm watching the one you did. There's an almighty gap between you and the drain, and yeah, it suddenly stops.
Could
The
it
first time
possibly
I
be
s-
because instead of having the detection like at the side of his shoulder or whatever, because it's got like an invisible block going round it? I mean, the video I'm watching, he's crashed into the drain. Now, even though he's nowhere near the drain, the his jacket is bleeding into the drain. So is it picking up the bleed?
More than
As
likely, yes.
yeah,
Which means there's nothing you can do to avoid it. There are some parts of the road, because the drain's so big, I mean, it doesn't look like any drain I've seen out here. This thing looks, I mean, it's bloody enormous. So if you're on a certain part of the road, there is no way you can avoid that thing.
aye. So yeah, we've got colour bleeding big style. The sprite detection is iffy to say the least. It's also going to lose a point for using the inbuilt font.
Yeah, the system font there, I haven't even attempted to disguise that.
Now we've not even made a comment about any of the. In fact, you know what I've noticed? There appears to be an almost complete lack of any baddies, for want of a better
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, there are no people anywhere on this street. It's just the occasional lawnmower and the occasional, I think, like there's a radio-controlled car at
Well, it
some
looks
point.
more like a radio-controlled dinner plate or something, and
Well,
you,
yeah,
yeah. I mean,
but that's it. There are no people anywhere on this street at all. Place is totally deserted.
I'm just trying to see. I did see. I mean, there's a lot of kind of glitching going on as well as it comes from the top. If you look at the top of the screen, it seems to kind of flicker quite a bit as well.
So, yeah, I just noticed that. Yes.
Yeah. Aye, it's as you say. The whole point of Paperboy is you've got to try and avoid the baddies. You've got to work your way around. You've got to try and avoid baddies. You've got to throw papers to take out baddies. This version, well, certainly
Well,
on the first level Monday,
yeah, there aren't any.
there's none. Yeah, you've got like okay, yeah, you've got what resembles that looks a bit more like a lawnmower. You've also got I don't know what it is. It looks like a cabbage that kind of
There's
rolls.
this thing, yeah, that just rolls along.
I don't remember cabbages being in Paperboy.
No, I mean, okay, I didn't play the coin-op very often, but yeah, I don't have any memories of cabbages floating around in it.
And again, I've just the video I'm watching there. I was nowhere near the dinner plate on wheels, and I've just crashed
Yeah,
or crashed, as it
yeah,
likes to
that's it,
say.
yeah, crash. So it's jailbreak syndrome. You don't actually see him come off the bike. It just stops with his printed crash at the top, and that's it.
And I'm about to cross over the road. Oh, I've just crashed because I've been hit with I've been hit with an AWOL cabbage again. Oh,
Oh, no.
game over. Right, okay. Right, that's the end of that video.
I
Yeah,
think it says just how badly this game has been coded. That on the first level there are virtually no like enemies or whatever they are, anywhere appearing, and yet it's almost well, I'd say it's probably close to impossible to actually get past the first level. Even though there's nothing there to really stop you, because you're spending the whole time. Well, you don't dare come off the pavement, because if you do, you've got no chance of getting back onto it again. So even though you've got the whole screen there, I mean that's me trying to find something positive to say about it. It's a full screen, but you've got this tiny little slither of pavement. It's about the only area
Yeah.
you can actually travel on.
and another thing as well, what I've noticed with this version is if you are on the road and you manage to not get hit with the drain, in the arcade one or the home versions, if you hold the joystick, you can actually hold the joystick to the left, so you're kind of against the pavement. In this version, you crash, whereas in other
Just crash
versions,
straight.
it just won't let you move up. The only way you can go on the pavement is by going up the little sort of incline part. But this one, if you so much as feather the pavement, it's game over. But
That's it. Crash.
I don't know whether we get baddies in the later levels, but taking out the baddies in this would be a bit like having Space Invaders with nothing to shoot. I mean,
Yeah, with no invaders. Yeah.
you know, it's just a bit. It's a bit.
It's a bit pants, really.
You're missing the point. So, to summarise Paperboy and the C16, yeah, possibly we're being. I'm not going to say we're being unfair. I think what we need to get out to you guys is we're not being unfair to lowly systems. What the point of these videos is, these companies, when they're sitting in the production area, whatever it is, and they're discussing how you getting on with this game, guys. Can I see a beta? When they presented these games before they were released, somebody should have stood up and said, "Wait a minute, that's shit. You can't sell that."
Yeah.
But they obviously thought, well, you know what? The C16 and +4 guys have not got any games to play. They'll be quite happy. We don't have to give them anything, you know.
Yeah. And that's why you end up with guff like this and Green Beret.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, shame on you, Elite, who brought out that. That was Paperboy on the C16. That was number 9 in the worst 10 video arcade conversions of all time. So we're on up to number 8, or down to number 8.
Yeah, so next, number 8, I don't think anybody is going to be surprised by the inclusion of this one. Chase HQ, the Commodore 64. So this was released by Ocean in, now when did the conversion actually come out? Though the coin-op came out around 87, 88.
88. I'm looking at your video and it says Chase HQ 1988.
Okay, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say 88. I thought it was a bit later than that. I thought it was getting on for 1990. But okay, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say this is 1988 because, of course, you know, games for the Commodore 64, they all looked really awful in 1988, didn't they? It's hard to know where to start with this thing. Well, let's start with the obvious. The road routine is taken straight from the Spectrum version. And they decided that not only was that a good idea, but then they would really give away that this is a horrible hybrid by putting in actual sprites for the cars, which to me look more like UFOs. So visually it is pretty grotesque. And then you see it move, or tries to move. It's so staggeringly slow. At some point, I mean, I don't know if your speed is measured in miles per hour or kilometres per hour, but whatever it is, they seem to be more than slightly optimistic. I mean, the point of the video I'm up to here, I'm doing 260 miles per hour, and it looks like walking pace. I mean, it's just horrendous.
The thing is, yeah, as we all know, or anybody that's, most of us know, the Sinclair Spectrum version of this game is probably one of the finest arcade conversions you could hope to get on any 8-bit machine. Not even 8-bit, in any home computer. It's an absolute work of genius, as is the Amstrad version. So you'd probably say, if somebody says to you, well, I'm going to use the Spectrum road routine for the C64, you think that's an absolute work of genius. But what they've completely forgot to realise is the C64 processor is much slower, so when you transfer it across the C64 it runs like a complete dog.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I really don't see any justification for using the Spectrum road routine anyway. It's not like the Commodore 64 can't do it. We've got games like Super Cycle and even like some budget games, that one where you're on the skateboard collecting the empty bottles or whatever. I can't remember the bloody name now.
Metro Cross.
No, Street Surfer, that was it.
Oh, right.
So, I mean, those games show that, yeah, the 64 can do decent road routines just fine. And then this comes along. So it's using a Spectrum road routine complete with color clash and complete with a lot of slowdown. So the game runs slow anyway. And then if there's a lot happening on screen, because they're not using the Commodore 64's graphics hardware, the hardware sprites, that's nowhere in any part of the road routine. So it's all processor centric, like you say. The Z80 processor that the Spectrum had was clocked so much faster than the 6502 that the Commodore 64 had. So it's trying to use this Spectrum road routine, which was written for a much faster processor. It can't handle it. So when a lot happens, it slows even more. So much so that the timer, the countdown, slows down as well. So the rate that your time goes down is never constant. It will go down quicker when there are hardly any cars on the road. But if you have like 2 or 3 cars in front of you, the rate that the time goes down, I think it goes down once every like 3 seconds or something. It's just so bad done.
But it's like a mixed mash of game styles. I mean, they've got this horrible green and grey road which just looks completely bland. Now, you can get away with that on the Spectrum, and I'm no disrespect to the Spectrum, you can get away with that if you're consistent with the graphical style. You need to have monochrome cars and sprites. To have this horrible green road, the trees are black and white, which the mountains are blue.
The shade of blue that the mountains are depends on the gradient of the road. If the mountains start going up, they turn darker blue.
As do the lights in the tunnel. Depending on where they are on screen, they go between green, and at one point it was half green, half blue. So it just looks horrible when you take a monochrome road routine with black and white graphics, and then you overlay this coloured sprite.
Yeah, I mean, I get the impression. I mean, obviously, I don't know if this is true or not, but I mean, clearly there was no attempt made to do a decent version of the for the Commodore 64 of this game. But I get the impression they were going to just do a straight Spectrum port, and then someone said to them, "Well, hang on, we're not going to get away with that." So they came up with this as half-hearted an idea as you can get, where they thought, right, okay, we'll put in sprites for the cars then, that'll do, the whole thing reeks of fuck it, that'll do, it's they haven't got it at all. There is no excuse at all for this game using a Spectrum road routine and having the Spectrum-esque graphics on the for the whole of the road and basically everything other than everything else.
The thing is, I've obviously, if you look at the sort of the bottom panel, it looks quite nice. It's grey. The wee pictures that come up of the guys as and when they're talking, they look alright. They've spent a bit of time doing that. So it's obviously when they've been sent away, they're saying, right, you need to do the sprites for the cars and do the bottom panel. Don't worry about the road, lads. We're going to import that. We'll get that off the Z80 guys, and we'll just port it straight across. So it's been
bearing in mind, this is Ocean.
Yeah.
The biggest game developers on the Commodore 64.
Yeah.
At the time, if anybody, and they proved it on numerous occasions, they could do decent arcade conversions, and if they're doing original games, they can do fantastic games. So for, as if it's bad enough that it looks and plays like this, the fact that it was Ocean that did it is...
It's unforgivable.
I would go so far as to say this game was an insult to Commodore 64 owners.
Yeah.
It's as if Ocean would say, you know what, we don't give a toss about you anymore,
Yeah. Now, there's a game. What was the game? Batman, whatever it's called, the famous ocean game, Batman. There was a
The
section in
movie
that
or
Batman the movie. I
comics.
think it was. There's a driving section in that
Yeah.
that came out about the same time as that. Now, I'm not familiar with that. Do you know? I remember the driving section in the Amiga version was awesome.
Yeah, I had the Amiga version. I didn't have the 64
I'm
version.
just,
I know
I'm curious as to how good or bad the driving section was, because obviously,
on 64, it
yeah.
was totally different because, well, the Amiga version, it was, like this, the 3D driving thing. On the 64, it was left to right.
Right, okay, so
You
the
know, so I think they did that because of either memory limitations or whatever. So you could almost say they had an excuse for doing it. But with this, there is no excuse.
there's no excuse.
Simple as that.
Yeah. As you say, I think it just reeks off their, sheer laziness. They thought, I don't know if the Spectrum one, I'm guessing 9 times out of 10, generally it was the Spectrum version that was released first.
I'll have to take your word on that.
Yeah, or maybe they came out at the same time, but
At the same time. Yeah.
I'm thinking, and I could be talking complete horseshit, I'm thinking that the Spectrum one came out to rapturous applause, quite deservedly, and then they probably thought, listen guys, don't bother with that road routine, just use this one, pardon me very much, just use this one, it's fantastic. Not realising that it was going to be this bad, but they've obviously thought, look...
Yeah, and of course
let's-
you'd have thought that ocean programmers would have known. Hang on, that road routine was created for a 3 megahertz Z80. You put it on a 950 kilohertz 6502, and it's kind of crawl along.
Absolutely garbage.
And either no one bothered to tell them, or they just said, "Oh, we'll do it anyway."
And
I suspect it was the latter.
Even forgetting the fact how slow it runs, it's just pure, it's really jerky. And as we all know, you play Pole Position by Atari, which came out about 3 years, that's a lot better. Look at things like Super Cycle, look at things like Pit Stop 2.
Yeah, Pit Stop 2, yeah.
Absolutely no excuse. No excuse at all. So for that reason, Ocean, your Chase HQ in the C64 is number 8 in the 10 worst arcade conversions ever.
Yeah, and deservedly so.
Deservedly so, yep. Right, number 7 on our list of 10 of the worst arcade games, the 10 worst arcade games ever. It's a game that was, I don't know quite when it was released. In fact, it says here, because I'm looking at a fantastic video made by your good self. It was published by Domark, which is probably pretty ominous from the off.
Yeah. Tells you enough to begin with.
Yeah, and it was released in 1990, and it is a Stun Runner, or Stun. I don't know. Do we know what that's actually stands for?
I haven't got the faintest idea. I'm sure I can make up or I'll think up some words for it.
Yeah, Stun Runner released, I says, in 1990 by Domark. Now, was that an Atari game?
Yeah, it was. It was probably released under the Tenjin name, but yeah, it was an Atari original.
Aye. Now, this I've never actually seen this in the arcades. I mean, I've played it in MAME, so I've got a fair idea what it's about. Am I right in thinking that probably Stun Runner, it was all about, it wasn't so much about being a particularly good game, it was all about the experience, the arcade experience. I mean, back in 1990, did we have the Mega Drive? We did. People had the Sega Mega Drive, so we were starting to get arcade games that were just as good as those that were in the arcade. So
the actual,
does that make sense? We were getting to play home conversions.
As good as coin-op games, yeah.
The versions we're playing at home were just as good as arcade. So to try and keep ahead of the 8-ball, so to speak, the arcades thought, well, what can we do? Let's bring out these absolutely stunning looking games that you just simply could not do on the home machines. So Stun Runner was very much a visual game. It was about the speed. It was an exhilarating game, supposedly. Then you look at the Commodore 64 one. Where do we begin?
Oh,
Now,
God.
right from the off, I mean, it's utilising a technique which is one of the oldest techniques that they've used in 8-bit machines. It seemed to be predominantly the Commodore 64, and it's where you have a sort of, want a better word, a checkerboard effect,
Yes.
which came towards you, which gave you the impression of speed. Now, I'm trying to think of games that had that. Trailblazer.
Yeah, I mean, with Trailblazer, Cosmic Causeway, I guess Space
Ball
Harrier.
Blazer.
Yeah, Ball Blazer.
Although it's an absolute pish game, it still looks damned impressive.
Yeah,
And
it was fast.
yeah, and these games came out, correct me if I'm wrong, about probably 3-4 years.
Oh, it's got to be. I mean,
Well, in fact,
Ball
more
Blazer-
than that. They came out because they came out probably, I don't know, 19.
I think Ball Blazer was 85 or something like that.
So we're talking 5 years before this.
Yeah.
And then they released this thing. Now, I've got to give a bonus point for the actual spaceship. It looks alright, albeit there is absolutely hee-haw animation. It merely moves left to right.
Yeah, there's a slight disagreement on the actual the thing actually looking alright. I thought it looked.
I'm trying to, yeah. I'm actually just looking at the mountains in the background. Look awfully like the mountains that were in the game before this one, Chase HQ, except they've actually coloured them in. So maybe these are the mountains.
So this actually has something over Chase HQ then. It has coloured in mountains in the background.
See, these mountains are identical. I think that Domark have actually bought the mountain graphics from Ocean. And they've said, well, look,
or maybe borrowed. We say.
so maybe that's why. Maybe Domark says, wait a minute, guys, we've bought these mountain graphics off you. You can't use them. So they thought, well, shit, we're just going to have to use the bloody Spectrum one. I don't know. We're maybe giving them, we're making excuses for them. But yeah, where do we begin with this? Bottom graphics, they look alright. This game, it looks like it's unfinished.
Yeah.
What are these horrible yellow squares that are coming towards you? What's that all about?
Well, I mean, those yellows, they're yellow and red flashing.
Yeah.
At least with those, they are meant to be, they're, in the arcade original, they're sort of rounded corners, but they are meant to be squares on the track. Where it really shows either unfinished or they couldn't be bothered is when you get the red squares. They are supposed to be stars, and yet in this, they're just these red squares that appear. I mean, part of me thinks, yes, okay, it was released unfinished, and part of me thinks they just didn't care, and they were just happy to release it in this bloody awful state. Look at it.
I mean, it's not even like they tried. They just used a square, and somebody obviously figured that'll do.
Yeah, exactly. It's the old fuck it, that'll do.
Who cares? Doesn't matter. There was just a little bit of graphic trickery going on there, which actually looked kind of not shit. It was little spinny things going on. Oh, is that your kind of bullets or something? It looks like little.
Oh, that thing that you're shooting.
Silver balls going like that. What's that?
Oh, hang on. No, I think that's different. Because, when you're firing in this game, I think there's no perspective at all. It just looks like your shot is going straight up. It looks like it just goes about like 3 feet in the air. The shots look utter crap. I think that spinning thing, that's just... I think it's just when you shoot, you shoot one of the enemy, I don't know, ships or whatever they are, coming towards you. And, I've just seen it now.
I don't know what that is.
I haven't got the faintest idea what that is.
So it's quite possible they'd maybe worked on the graphics, they'd worked on the graphics at a certain point, and then somebody came in and says, right lads, I don't care how long, what you've not done, it needs to go out tonight. So
Well,
they've just
I think they may have worked on the graphics one Sunday afternoon or something.
after the pub or something.
Yeah.
I mean,
Bloody
the game over out of time thing is more impressive than the game.
hell. Actually, I think the most impressive thing is when you reset your Commodore 64. That's when you see the game at its best.
But yeah, I mean, really, it's like a lot of these games. I mean, we did kind of discuss this before we put this video out. A lot of these games, they were cash cows. They were, they wanted, these were the big games in the arcades at the time, and they thought people will pay good money to play these on their home conversions. And as we know, there were certain games that technically should not have been possible, like Space Harrier. And there's not really a bad. Well, no, sorry, I was just about to say something there, but yeah, most of the conversions of Space Harrier are actually pretty damn good.
Well, I don't know if I go so I'd say pretty damn good, but most of them were tolerable. They were playable.
They're passable. They're passable.
Yeah.
They're passable. This here just reeks of get it out as quick as possible. Look, I don't give a shit that you've not done the graphics for the stars. Doesn't matter. Just put green. Make it green. Make one red. Make one green. They're never going to notice. They've got an arcade game on their Spectrum. Who cares?
I mean, it's one of those games where, and there was no shortage of these when it came to the conversions for the 64 around this sort of time.
Yeah.
You take one look at the coin-op original and you think, look, it's an absolute waste of time even trying. And so they didn't try. They just slapped it all in, the simplest way they possibly could and said, there you go, right, we'll throw that out and people will buy it. I mean, I don't think it was a huge commercial success, but then again, the coin-op original wasn't exactly a big success.
Nah.
So it was a strange choice of game to convert, as well as being one where you take one look at it and think, look, it can't be done. Why are you even trying? And then clearly they didn't try it.
The guys that got this obviously realised from the off that, look, wait a minute, this is impossible. This is an impossible job. So rather than try and do their best, they just flung it together. Doesn't matter if it's shit or not, really.
Yeah, and it shows in every way.
Yeah, if you think about the two selling points of this game, graphics, speed, exhilaration, you've got none of these in this.
Yeah, it's like you've got none of those things. I mean, the only even vague attempt at portraying a sense of speed is the fact that the speedometer changes. So it's giving you, it's telling you that at some points you're doing 944 miles an hour, and yet you look at it and it looks like you're going at jogging pace. There's absolutely no difference in the sense of speed once you reach, I think, say about 300 miles an hour. So you can be doing over 3 times that, but it looks exactly the same in this.
I'll tell you what, one bit of this game that would have been impressive speed-wise is how quick you turned this shit off after loading it.
Yeah. That would be the fastest thing, about it. Did anybody who bought this ever actually load it more than once? I can't believe anyone did.
And you know what makes this a double kick in the balls for any C64 owner? I'm absolutely positive that they were probably paying £2 more than the Spectrum owners. Because there seemed to be a thing.
Yeah, Spectrum games were usually $7.99 and 64 $9.99.
Yep, and Amstrad, I never ever got that one. I used to think, well, they've got more memory to play with, so therefore it's going to take an extra 20% to program it. Quite clearly not.
not in this case, no.
So, to really summarise Stun Runner, it should be... the arcade game was exhilarating. It was all about the speed, the smoothness. You really felt like... it was basically Wipeout before Wipeout came along. And this is clunky, it's slow, there's no impression of speed, it's jerky, the graphics are unfinished, and quite frankly, it's just a pile of crap.
One other thing to add about this, The game, the actual coin-op original, used the same engine as hard driving. Now it shows that the people who developed the coin-op original didn't give a monkey's toss about who bought the license, so long as they got the money in, because this is Domark, the same people who did the conversion of hard driving.
Is that right? Really?
So you think, okay, the original developers were thinking, yes, they did such a great job of hard driving, we've got to let them do, Stun Runner as well. Come on.
So I didn't realise that. What came out first? What came first?
Hard driving came out first.
Hard driving first. I mean, seriously. I don't know. Yeah, you should hang your head in shame, Domark. And that is why it takes 7th position in the worst arcade conversions ever. Right, we're almost at halfway point. We've got one more before we get to the top 5, and I'll let you go for this one, Chris. What is number 6 in our top 10 worst arcade conversions ever?
Right, number 6. Now, this is another one where I think a lot of people would expect to see this in here. So this is Power Drift for the Commodore Amiga. Now, let's get straight to the point with this one, right? This whole top 10 could easily have been filled with, Commodore 64 and Amiga conversions of Sega Y-board games.
What was that, Chris? Sega what board?
The Sega Y-board games. So all of your,
Outrun.
Power Drift, Outrun, Super Hang-On, Afterburner.
Was that all the big sprite scaling games we're talking about?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the hardware that these, the coin-op originals were using was immense. I mean, they had like about 3 processors in them, and they were all 16-bit processors. They were all the 68,000. And the other thing is, okay, the games themselves a lot of the time were quite basic. It was all about the experience, just like you were saying with Stun Runner. It was all the experience playing it in the deluxe cabinet with all the hydraulics moving you around and everything else. Once you take away the flashy graphics and the hydraulic, movement of the cabinet,
the sense of speed,
and the speed of them, you're left with not a great deal. And all of the home conversions, with 1 or 2 exceptions, all proved this. I mean, and I decided, right, well, I'll choose just one to, illustrate it. And it was almost a no-brainer. The Amiga version of Power Drift had to be one.
I think it's fair to say that, other than 1 or 2 conversions of certain games and certain systems, they all varied in. So they all varied in how bad they were. They were all bloody awful, but some of them were even worse. And this is probably one of the worst, I would say. For reasons which we're about to reveal.
Yes. Now the thing is, you look at this, and then you look at the Commodore 64 version of Power Drift.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so it's a thankless task even thinking about trying to convert this thing. But the 64 version worked because of the fact that, and it's not for the first time, Chris Butler didn't attempt to do a straight conversion. He basically interpreted it, made it so that it was easily recognisable as the actual game. You could tell that it was Power Drift, but he had scaled things down enough to make sure that it would be playable on a Commodore 64, and it was. I mean, even though I'm not a big fan of the coin-op original, the Commodore 64 version of Power Drift is a pretty good game.
Yeah.
The Amiga, though, they decided, no, we're going to go straight on with doing a full conversion, have everything that's in the coin-op original onto the Amiga version, without, even slightly considering the fact that the Amiga just does not have the power or the speed to be able to pull it off.
Yeah.
And that becomes immediately apparent as soon as you start playing the thing, which I've just started doing in the video that I'm watching.
I'm watching that just now. I mean, I've got to say, if you saw these screenshots on the back of the box, you would be like, wow, all my dreams have just come true. The graphics, when they're not moving, look absolutely staggering. They look fantastic.
Yeah, but I mean, well, I mean that was the age-old trick, especially at this sort of time. They would always use either Amiga or Atari ST screenshots on the back, and because it was still, they could say that the game looks fantastic because you can't see it moving. I mean, even when they did Outrun, which was, you know, atrocious on the Amiga, but when you looked at the screenshots, just still screenshots, it didn't look too bad. And then, yeah, then you played it. And with this, it takes to the crushing disappointment of playing Outrun to completely new depths. I mean, well, it plays incredibly sluggishly. There's no getting away from that. So every time you approach a corner, you are almost certainly going to crash.
Yeah.
I find the sound effects throughout it really do great, especially when you're crashing. You get this really loud sort of crunching sound, which just annoys the shit out of you, and you're hearing it like every 5 seconds. Oh, here we go, here's another corner. Right, okay, I'm going to crash again. You know. So the audio really sort of rubbed it in as to how difficult the game was. I mean, you couldn't get anywhere in it at all. But also, because they were so determined to do a straight conversion, it also suffers from one of the big problems I have with the coin-op original, which is that because Sega Wideboard games couldn't actually do 3D and they just had all these layered 2D bitmaps, when they're trying to do a 3D, a large or a long 3D object, all they can do is just place the bitmaps as close to each other as they can, but it means you always got all these gaps in there. Power Drift, of course, they made part of the track using this system, so there are always the gaps in between, like these logs or whatever it is you're driving on. And then with the Amiga version, those gaps are even wider, and it just looks awful.
Yeah. And you've also got, I mean, you know, you've also got that when you're going up part of the road, you've also got the road above you as well, and it looks like the game's crashed, no pun intended. It's just a complete mess. I mean, the actual, if it was a straightforward driving game, when you've got the sort of road, etc., it's kind of passable. It's not great, it's kind of passable, but Power Drift was very, very short tracks, and it's all about, there's a lot of hairpin corners and tight turning, and when you go around a corner in this particular version, you've got no idea where you are. The graphics, there's no real sort of sprite scaling going on, and
there's no perspective. It's
just all coming at you, boom, and you've got no idea where you are, and it's just a complete mess.
So I mean, it is quite a difficult task to pick out what is the worst of the Sega Wideboard conversions. I mean, you know, Afterburner, Commodore 64 Super Hang-On, Commodore 64 Enduro Racer, any version of Galaxy Force, you know, like we were saying with Stun Runner, you take one look at the coin-op original when you think, right, even attempting this is a total waste of time, and they just kept on churning them out over and over and over. I mean, you ended up, we were still getting conversions of like G-Lock. I cried out loud. So at some point, surely one of them must have said, look, this is getting ridiculous, it can't be done, why are we even trying? But clearly people were buying them.
Because they were the big games that people were playing in arcades. They were releasing them at Christmas, and you know, the wee 10-year-old kids, their grannies are probably going out there and buying them. They had no idea about it. I'm looking at this here just now. You've got the bridge, and the bit that goes across the top is actually disjointed. They're not even joined up. You know, just exactly what you're saying here. As you say, they never learned. You could almost have let them off with a warning if they'd released Outrun. Thought, like, okay, it was shit, But right, we've learned our lesson. We're not gonna do it again. But they just kept releasing more and
they
more
just
and
kept,
more.
yeah, exactly. They
Yeah.
just kept on going and
So
going and going.
they
So we ended up with
they obviously
Afterburner,
felt
Thunderblade.
they obviously thought that this game was acceptable. When did this one come out? Oh, in 1989.
89, yeah. So
1989.
I, 89, well, I mean, in 89 they were bringing out an awful lot of these Y-board ones. So 89, I think that was when Afterburner came out. That was when Galaxy Force came out. For me, Galaxy Force was the last straw. The mere idea of attempting to do a conversion of Galaxy Force for either an Amiga or Commodore 64. Just look at the game. How the fuck are you supposed to do that for an Amiga or a 64? It cannot be
Can't be
done.
done. Yeah.
But they just carried on going.
Yeah.
And so you end up with, Power Drift coming along afterwards. And,
Yeah, and a lot of people gutted when buying this, absolutely devastated. But and the thing is, it's easy for us to sort of to look at games now and go, when you look at what we can play now and your Xbox and all that kind of stuff, and to look at that and go, this is a pile of shit. But even back then, I remember getting this on the Amiga, and I just thought, this is so disappointing, and I just stopped playing it because it was just a complete and utter mess.
Yeah. I mean, I must admit, maybe, well, it could explain a few sales people doing this, because I did it a couple of times. I bought, so I did have Galaxy Force for the Amiga back in the day, but I got it at a sale price. I only paid a £5 for it. I knew it was going to be shite, but because I found it cheap, I thought, okay, let's get it and see just how bad it was. And it failed to meet my expectations, no matter how low they were. But I also I remember buying Dragon's Lair for Commodore 64. Now, anybody with even an ounce of sense would have known straight away, look, Dragon's Lair for a Commodore 64, you are joking. But there were people like me who just saw it and thought, oh, okay, I like the coin-op original, let's see just how much they butchered it. And, okay, that was 10 quid. I don't think people could really do that. I mean, these were 25 quid, these Amiga versions, when they were first released. You can't waste 25 quid on a game just to see how shit it is. So I think I'd rather talk myself out of that argument for those sales. No. You'd wait for you'd wait for it to go on sale for like a £5 like I did with Galaxy Force. And I mean, Power Drift, I reckon at some point they must have been giving away copies of it free, buy 2 blank discs and we'll throw in Power Drift, or something like that. It's the only way they could shift the bloody thing.
See, when you think about it, if the internet existed back then, they wouldn't have sold it. The problem was, some shops would give you, if you went in and asked them, could you load up this game for me, like we said, I don't think I ever asked them to load up a game. It was all relying on magazine reviews, whatever. So you looked at the screenshot, you looked at the adverts, you thought, that looks absolutely amazing. You handed over your cash, and then you go home and you realise it was a pile of shit. And probably most people like myself, you never even thought about taking your money back. If you bought a toaster for Argos which didn't toast properly, you would take it back and get your money back. I never once returned a game based on it being crap.
No, it's the same here.
There
were hardly any occasions when I did return a game. The only time I can remember when I did was because it wouldn't load up properly. However, that was 720 degrees for the Commodore 64, which amazingly didn't get on this list. So, yeah, you could almost say, yeah, I did return a crap game. It's just not for that particular reason.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to summarise Power Drift, I mean, it was, well, I'll let you do the summary.
Well, I mean, it was a stupidly ambitious, over-ambitious idea. They clearly hadn't learned from all the previous ones. They just kept on going, trying to do conversions of games that the computer was never even remotely close to being able to do.
Aye, and yet they thought it perfectly acceptable to put it out there. But yeah, so just static wise, the game looks absolutely fine. But it was just simply the machine wasn't up to it. However, just when you're talking there, I'm just doing a quick look. Gremlin Graphics released Lotus Esprit Turbo Challenge in 1990, which was just about a year after this.
Yeah, the following year.
Yeah, and they proved that an Outrun game was possible.
Yeah, and you could. Well, I mean, yeah, the Lotus Turbo Challenge was fantastic. It was everything that Power Drift wasn't.
These games weren't. So anyway, yeah, that's number 6 in our worst arcade conversions ever. And I'm actually quite excited about going into the top 5, because if you think the last 5 are bad, you ain't seen nothing yet, kid.
Oh, God.
Right, okay, that was number 6. Right, any of the sort of eagle-eyed viewers might have noticed that Chris and I have done a remarkable costume change. It's because, was it 2 days? When did we start this? Was it? I can't even remember. Sunday, was it?
Feels like a lifetime ago. I think it was a couple of days ago, yeah.
It was, I think it was Sunday night, and it's now Thursday night, yeah. Because we wanted to, anyway, so that's it.
We missed one out.
So your eyes are not playing tricks. We are actually wearing different clothes, although Chris's bed is still unkempt, as it always is.
Yeah, that's never going to change that, yeah.
Right, okay, Chris, number 5 in our worst arcade home conversions ever. Number 5.
Number 5. Anyone who has seen my channel will not be remotely surprised to see this one included, but they might be surprised that it is only at number 5. And I speak, of course, of Karnov. I can't even say Karnov without, and keep a straight face. So this thing came out in 87. I think this was Electric Dreams, wasn't it?
You might be right. Yeah, you might be right. Yeah.
It's all right. A bit of a background story. I remember seeing this advertised a hell of a lot, so I get the impression that Electric Dreams really did spend a lot on advertising this thing, and I particularly remember seeing it quite often in Zap 64 magazine. And I could never figure out why all of the screenshots were from the Spectrum version. Then you see the game on the Commodore 64, and you soon realise why they showed screenshots of the Spectrum version, because I have a video of it now playing. Basically, they only did a Spectrum version, and then for all the other computers, they just ported the Spectrum version straight over.
I mean, can I say it doesn't even... Well, statically you could probably say, yeah, it looks like a typical Spectrum version, quite high-res graphics, but it doesn't even play anywhere near as good as the Spectrum version.
No, because, again, it has the same problem that we mentioned in Chase HQ. Using, all Spectrum coding and whatever, it means that it's designed to be running on a Z80 processor, which I think was 3 megahertz. Well, the Commodore 64 is running at 950 kilohertz. It is a lot slower.
Is that right? Is it as much as that? So is it almost like a third as slow, a third as quick then, really?
So don't quote me on that, but I'm fairly sure at 80 was 3 megahertz. But yeah, I know, well, certainly the powered version of Commodore 64 was 950 kilohertz. If you had an NTSC one in America, that actually ran at a staggering 1 megahertz. So yeah, you had the faster processor. But so you've got a game which looks like absolute shite, and it runs even worse.
Yeah, it runs worse than it looks.
Which, if you look at still screenshots, you can't, the scale of that sentence this game runs worse than it looks. So,
Yeah.
But I mean, a Commodore 64 could, if it was using all of its hardware, it could do this absolutely no problem. I mean, it would just breeze through this. You can probably code this in about 16K, maybe even less than that. But they have, I mean, absolutely no attempt has been made at all to code a Commodore 64 version. And they did exactly the same thing with the Amstrad. Or at least I think they did exactly the same with the Amstrad.
Yeah, Amstrad tended to get I kind of felt sorry for Amstrad owners. They tended to get plagued with Spectrum ports an awful lot because I suppose it was kind of, you can kind of understand it because I think they had the same processors. But as you say, the C64 processor and the Spectrum one are completely different. What I'm noticing here as well, Chris, depending, am I right in thinking you've only got one weapon? You don't have different coloured bullets because depending on what background he's firing the bullets against, they go from black to red, and there's no consistency as to the colour of the sprite. So it's like an early Spectrum game, and even the actual sprites have kind of got big chunky black borders around them. They look like we were talking about this game the other day. They look like a Monty Python sketch. The way they move, they look like cardboard cutouts. Have you ever seen some of the games? Is it Paper Mario, where it's like drawings on paper? That's what this is like. It's like
I've never seen it, but I know of it.
The baddies don't look like they're actually in the game. They look like they're cardboard cutouts with like 2 frames. And it's just junk. It's clunky. Yeah. Scrolling is abysmal. I mean, what is going on there?
Yeah, I mean, it's all software because, I mean, we all know that the Commodore 64 had hardware scrolling, had hardware sprites, and this uses none of it. So everything is done through the processor. And so the processor is basically working its bollocks off to try and render this absolute crap. The thing with the shot colours, because you're right. There are no actual additional main weapons. If you press fire, you get that. The only difference is you can fire, 2, 3. I think the most you get is 4 shots. But yeah, in front of some colours, they go completely black. In front of the white buildings, actually it looks like in front of the cyan buildings as well. Well, if you're over like the purple bricks earlier on in level 1, they're suddenly showing us purple. And it's again because it's all using software sprites, and it has all of the colour clash and attribute clash that the Spectrum version has. It's all there. I mean,
I mean the bullets, I know we're harbouring on about the bullets, which is a minor detail, but it's just really, it's unacceptable. When you're standing against a black background, the bullets are red, and then when they go over blue, they're red. When they go over white, they become black. So
yeah. When you're in front of the purple bricks, then they're purple. So in some cases, they change colour about 3 times just as you've fired the thing.
And the speed as well is diabolical, isn't it?
It's painfully slow. I mean, the thing is, the actual arcade coin-op of Karnov was a game. I mean, I never played it either. I saw it in a few of the arcades down here in Southend, and it just struck me as, wow, that game looks about as genetic and as boring as a game gets. I have no interest in playing it at all. But, one thing that I do remember about it was it wasn't, it didn't crawl along at a snail's pace like this thing does.
Again, when you see Karnov, I presume he is Karnov, the bald chap. When you see him,
I'm assuming so. Yeah.
When you see him against a red background, he's actually got like black. When he's moving his arm, you see bits of black flickering about. So it's almost like a kind of character block. I mean, it's just completely unacceptable for a C64.
Yeah.
Do you not get the feeling that this game? I mean, I think was it Electric Dreams? You said it was. Obviously, who were the big one? Ocean or Imagine label. Who else did all arcade ports? Elite did a lot of the big ones.
Elite, did quite a few, yeah.
Obviously, Electric Dreams are thinking, I want some of this. and they were fighting for what was left. Right, what have you got, guys? Well, we've got Legend of Cage or Karnov. What are you wanting? Okay, we'll take Karnov, a game that nobody ever heard of.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. I mean, Ocean and Imagine in particular. I mean, they were buying up every bloody arcade license
they were cherry picking and getting the good games.
Well, yeah. Despite the fact that they still wound up with some real guff.
Some howlers, which will come to shortly. But yeah.
Yes. But I mean, so Karnov was a game that even Ocean were not interested in, and surely you'd have thought, right, well, Electric Dreams should have, at least thought about this. Hang on, why is nobody interested in getting this license?
This actually, sorry to interrupt, Chris, it actually says here, 1988 Electric Dreams. This came out in 1988.
88, okay, so 87 must have been the coin.
The coin was 87.
So 1988, so you think, 4 years after Impossible Mission. I know that's always the game I give the example, but you look at the visuals in. Actually, I just realised you weren't keen on the visuals in.
This is way better than Impossible Mission, honestly.
Let's think of a better example. So, okay, so
Uridium. Bad example.
Another great one to pick.
Wizzball.
So, Whizball. So that came out in 86. So that came out 2 years before this. Now, you look at the visuals in Whizball, and then you look at the visuals. I mean, this is an absolute insult to anybody who had a Commodore 64. That they, I say coded this. They basically, vomited this onto their, assemblers or whatever, and looked at it and thought, that's it, right? That's it. That's the game done. This is what we're going to release.
It's almost as if it was the C64 was trying to emulate the Spectrum version. Hence the reason it was playing like an absolute dog. I don't know.
I wouldn't even give them that benefit of doubt. I do think it was just the most lazy, cash-in. They basically they had programmed this one version, they programmed the Spectrum version, and then decided, right, we can't be bothered to do an Amstrad or a C64 version, so let's just slap the same one onto all three systems. There you go, Karnov for you. That'd be 10 quid, please.
Yeah, I've been tracing. I know a few people who are pretty technical watch our channels. I'd be interested to know if anybody knew what was actually going on here, because it does seem that, as you say, Chris, that it was kind of almost like running. They've taken the sort of the code from the Spectrum and somehow managed to kind of interweave it into running on, is that a 6802, whatever it is, the processor?
Because on the 502. Yeah,
I mean, why would? Fortunately, there's not many games that have kind of adopted that. Yeah, we might end up with a real crap version, but. Maybe they thought that the Spectrum one was really good, and they thought, well, let's just we can do this really easily. But it does reek of somebody cutting corners. Like, don't bother trying to make your own version. Well, you can use this as a basis. Screw the scrolling, screw the colour clash, screw how slow it is. They'll not notice. I don't know.
And screw Commodore 64 owners. I mean, with every game I think I've reviewed, and I'm sure you probably say the same about everyone you've reviewed, and even I think with all of the games we've covered in this list so far, there's always one person who will come along and say, no, actually it's not bad, or even actually that's pretty good. I have never heard anyone say anything positive about Karnov at all.
Nah. I mean, it's as you say, you can't. It's wrong in every single. There's nothing good about it. I can't even recall ever having seen that. In fact, just as we're talking, I'm actually going to do I'm going to do Karnov Arcade just to satisfy my own curiosity.
Oh, see what the arcade.
Yeah. In fact, what I'm hopefully going to do for this video, which will become apparent as anyone's watching this, hopefully I'm going to be overlaying the arcade version side by side, so you guys can actually see just how poor this version is. So let's see, Karnov Arcade. There we go. There's a long play video. It looks a damn sight better than the Spectrum one.
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear. At no point does it look like it's going to be a good game. But
No.
you look at the arcade original, and then you look back to this, and
It looks like it looks like the poor man's Ghosts and Goblins, really, doesn't it?
I mean, it could be something like that. But I mean, what it really is just, even it was Data East, wasn't it, who made this? So even that, we're just that we can't be bothered. Just put any old shit on the screen, and we know people will play it. I don't think anyone actually did though. I never saw anybody play it in the in Southend here, so I can't imagine it was ever a success.
I think the problem is this came out right at the, what was it come out in 1987? There were so many. I mean, shoot 'em ups were starting to maybe kind of fade away, and there was just an abundance of these types of games, and so games like this that were really mediocre, they never got a look in. Even the animation and some of the baddies in the arcade one is pretty pathetic.
Oh yeah, I mean, you look at the arcade one, you think, well, if this game was ever converted for the Amiga, there would be no reason why the Amiga couldn't be absolutely arcade perfect.
Yeah. I don't know, this didn't get in the release on the Amiga, did it? Did it?
I have no idea. I mean, after seeing the Commodore 64 version, I just had no interest in seeing what any of the other ones were like.
I can feel an Arcade Perfect my arse coming on, actually. Karnov. Arcade Perfect, there we go, that's one.
I'm sure you'll enjoy doing that one. You'll be playing some real winners there.
So to sum up, Chris, I think we've hammered this one to death. To sum up, why is Karnov such a pile of shit?
Why? Just look at it. I mean, that's all you need to do. Just look at it, and and remind yourself that's a Commodore 64 you're seeing. Yeah, that says everything that needs to be said.
Aye, and it's to take nothing away from this. I don't know how good the Spectrum version is. I know that most Spectrum games were sort of monochromatic, but they actually played well. They had the speed. This has got nothing. There's nothing. This if this was on the Spectrum, this would be probably classed as a bloody bad port.
Oh yeah, I think so.
I would think so. Yeah, that's number 5 in our 10 worst video game conversions ever. And top 4, bottom 4, who knows? Right, if that one wasn't a beauty, this one's going to be a beauty as well. Now, before I kind of get started with this one, I haven't played this game that we're going to talk about for any sort of length of time. I did feature it in a video that I did a couple of years back, and it's now I know we said we weren't going to kind of talk about these games because we've already done Power Drift, which was one of the big sort of sprite scaler behemoths, which was converted. But this one is getting a special look because it does something which no other version we've ever seen does, and it's Space Harrier on the Amstrad. Now I'm just going to bring it up just now so I can see this bad boy running.
I've got one up here. I don't know how easy this is to do, but I think to really give the sense of achievement, shall we say, the Amstrad one, starts off by just having the coil-up original showing on its own, and then bring in the Amstrad one afterwards.
That's not a bad idea. I'll try and remember to do that. I can't promise because by the time I edit this, I've probably not done that. But what I will have is I'll have the arcade one running side by side with this. So what was the appealing factors of Space Harrier? Well, you had the big hydraulic thing. It was all about a sensory overload, visuals, sound, amazing graphics, 3D graphics. It was never going to work. It really was never ever going to work trying to port I don't know how many processors did the arcade machine have?
It had at least 2, but it may have even had more than that.
Yeah, so it was always going to be a hiding for nothing. But to be fair, whilst they weren't particularly good games, the C64 was it was playable. It didn't look like the arcade. It never was. The Spectrum one, actually, I've kind of warmed to. I think it's probably my favourite home version of it. I mean, there's obviously better versions out for consoles, etc. But if you start off watching the Amstrad one, it all looks fairly promising. Yeah, look, nice graphics, lovely colour. Coloured background. The main sort of sprite looks nice. Everything's all in place. What's not to like? Then the enemies appear. Where do we start? It's like somebody's overlaid Space Harrier on the Vectrex and put it across the Amstrad. I mean, it's all the baddies, including the trees, including your firing. Everything is outline. It's just outline.
Yeah.
There is no colour. There is no colour at all. I can only assume that they've done this to retain some modicum of speed, Chris. What do you think?
That's the only thing I can guess. I mean, if there's anybody else who, like me, had never seen this version until you first mentioned it to me the other day, you cannot be prepared for what you are about to see. I mean, it's when I played the coin-op version, okay, back in the day I played the coin-op a hell of a lot. I was a big Space Harrier fan, and there were three things that always grabbed me about the coin-op original. First, obviously, the hydraulic movement of the deluxe cabinet. That really did add to it, but at least the game was also good as well. The second thing was the music. I did particularly like the disco dance version of the Blake 7 theme that played throughout. And the third thing was the fact that you didn't see through everything that came towards you. They weren't all transparent and outlined. And yet that last bit seemed to have got a bit lost on this Amstrad version.
I mean, if you saw this, you really would think that this was just a beta. And you think, oh, this is a work in progress.
I would...
Again, if anybody knows why they did this, I mean, I'm not a programmer, I'm not technical in the slightest. I could imagine if possibly they were thinking, right, well, we want to see how the sort of movement's coming together, how's the game's coming. What to do is just chuck in some outline graphics that will kind of give us a feel for the game, and then they simply ran out of time, or somebody thought, look, just leave it like that. The Amstrad's not a bad machine. Why the hell would you leave? I mean, you can see through the baddies. I mean, you get the big concrete faces. They look like hot cross buns. It's just ridiculous. And then don't even get me started when the dragon appears.
The dragons, they're the real...
the dragon was made up of, I don't know how many sections, maybe 10 sections, all...
I think it's something like that, yeah.
And in this one, because it's outlines, all I've done is put circles. So you just get this, it's like one of these type-in games, or type-in, when you first got your computer to do your homework, it was one of these things you typed in, and it just drew all these circles, like demos. That's what it looks like. It's just a cornucopia of circles.
I've just paused the video at 2:49. I've got an unbelievable shot here. I've actually got to take a screenshot of this because it has to be. It's got the head of the dragon as it's coming towards you.
I'm watching the same bit. Yeah.
It's got a big smiley face. I'm not exaggerating. It looks like it was drawn by a 5-year-old. It is. I mean, part of me is thinking, well, they must have thought, as it's going to be moving fairly quickly and you're constantly shooting at it, no one's going to notice how bad it looks. And I think, if that's the case, why have you put this stupid smiley face on it?
As you say, it's like, it would have taken literally all of 5 minutes to come up with the graphics for this.
And the thing that gets me is I get the distinct impression that programming vector graphics is not easy. So if this is using vector graphics, it's as if they've chosen a graphic system that is more difficult to program,
Yeah.
and yet it makes the game look laughable,
It's just
frankly.
it's ridiculous. I mean, the whole point of the game was shooting. You're shooting these big solid-looking objects. I mean, there's a bit where you've got the big concrete pillars, and you're having to kind of weave left and right. In fact, I've not even seen them in this version yet, so maybe they didn't.
Actually, I haven't seen them.
No, it's just that you've got these ridiculous-looking trees, which are basically diamonds sitting on top of like golf tees. I mean, it's. The only reason you know they're trees is because the top part's green and the actual trunk is. I was going to say it's red. It's not. It's red outline, and it's just the whatever colour you can see through the back. Absolutely. When I did my Arcade Perfect my arse and I saw this game, I really couldn't believe my eyes.
If I had been doing such a video and I saw this, I would have straight away assumed I've downloaded some public domain, clone or something. I'd get rid of it and I'd be looking for another disc. I just can't believe that this was deemed good enough to be released.
Yeah. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to actually have to see how this was reviewed back in the day. It'd be interesting. I mean, can I say, well, I've not played it. I'm assuming it probably plays okay, but the fact that they've completely... The whole point of this game, it's a visual treat, and this is just ridiculous. See-through graphics, what were they thinking?
I'll just add, I'm going on the assumption it's not okay to play. I've never played it. And look, I don't think I want to. I mean, I'm not an Amstrad fan, as anyone who's been to my channel will know. To the point where somebody once said that made me very narrow-minded, which was quite right in saying so. Because if you look in the OED, it even says look under the definition of narrow-mindedness, and it says showing no interest in a computer 35 years after you initially had no interest in it. So yeah, he was spot on there. But seeing something like this is not going to make me think, you know what, maybe I was wrong about the Amstrad for all this time. This is saying I had every reason to dismiss it.
And yeah, we know, and it's not the Amstrad's fault, as we know, it's the software, the programmers. I would absolutely love to know what the idea behind this, quite frankly. Just, it's an abomination of... It bears no resemblance. You wouldn't know it was Space Harrier other than the fact that it does the favourite thing that you love. It's got a big banner at the top. It tells you what it is.
It's constantly showing, yes.
I suppose you have to put that there because you wouldn't have a bloody clue what game you were playing if you didn't have that.
I was just thinking that actually. Yeah, in this case it might be justified because that's the only way you would actually know that it's Space Harrier you're playing.
I don't know. I would love it if the program... I don't even know who wrote this game. I'd love it if the programmers saw this video and actually told us what they were thinking. Yeah, I think we've probably beaten that one to death as well, Chris. That's Space Harrier and Amstrad, and that takes up number 4 on our top worst video game conversions of all time. And up to number 3 of our 10 worst arcade home conversions ever. Chris and I have already discussed this. We pulled this list together, and we both feel slightly rotten that we're going to include this one because I think did we not kind of come up with some criteria, Chris, that we weren't going to pick games on systems that weren't capable of running games.
Yes, that's it. But I mean, we were talking about stuff like the VIC-20s and obviously the Atari 2600 because it had such limited resources. Yeah. So yeah, we left them out.
But however, as I was going through my Arcade Perfect my arses to look for suitable candidates for this list, I came across this one, and it's Commando on the Electron. Now, yeah, where do we start with this one? I know the Electron was effectively it was a cut down BBC, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's effectively a lobotomized BBC. I mean, on paper, it sounded like it could have worked. It didn't sound like it would be too bad. Then if people got it with the intention of playing games on it, yeah, they soon realised it's no gaming computer.
Too slow. So where do we start with this one? I mean, I think, am I right in probably saying, with the exception of this one, Commando was pretty much every port was actually not bad. I don't think there was a bad port of it.
Yeah, I mean, Commando's a weird one. I was never a fan of the coin-op original, and I've played the 64 version, which I think is okay. I wouldn't say I was the biggest fan of it, but I mean, I know how massively popular it is. And it's one of those where I would load it up if I had it, because I never owned it back in the day. I borrowed it off a couple of mates and that, and I would usually load it up, listen to the music, and that was it. The music in it's fantastic. The game I was not so big on.
Yeah, I mean the Commando arcade game, it's effectively a vertical shoot 'em up. Albeit instead of controlling a spaceship, you're controlling a little crack commando. I'm assuming it's fast paced. You know, it should be. That's what these games are all about. Then you get the Electron one. I mean, where do we start? Graphically, if I took a screenshot and stuck it in the back of a cassette, you'd probably think, you know what, that's not actually that bad. It looks all right. I think. Well, apart from it's only got 3 colours. It's got green, yellow, and red. I don't know what the colour palette of the Electron was, but the biggest problem for me with this is just right. We're back. We just had a technical hitch. It's obviously getting the karma is coming back to haunt us for all the criticism we're levelling at all these different games.
It's only going to let us slag them off so many times. Yeah.
So yeah, Electron Commando. I mean, graphically it kind of looks not too bad, but as you can see, the game running, it is running at an absolute snail's pace. The guy on the motorbike going across the top of the tunnel looks like he's on one of these mobility scooters. It's just crawling at an absolute snail's pace. Now, I think the pace of the game could be forgiven if it actually played okay, but now I don't know if it's a restriction on the Electron graphic capabilities, but it plays so slowly. There's glitching constantly. Bullets seem to pass through soldiers. When the bullets are going past them, bits of the graphics cut out. When your crack commando walks over them, it kind of obscures graphics. It's a mess. I know a few other people that have played this game on YouTube, and they all said the same. It's an unplayable mess. You know why? It's like a lot of the games I've spoken about in the past in different videos. Why Ocean, or whoever it was, that was, I beg your pardon, it was Elite,
wasn't it? Yeah.
Why they thought that this was acceptable. I mean, look at the speed. I'm just watching there, the speed of the bullets. When there's too much on screen, everything just absolutely grinds to a standstill. It's, somebody was paying, top dollar, probably £9.95 for this, and it's just absolutely bloody woeful.
I mean, I am not exaggerating one bit here. I mean, I know I have a reputation for exaggerating for comic effect or whatever, but I'm not exaggerating at all when I say I have played real-time strategy games that have moved faster than this. The big problem is that what they have essentially done is they've not really coded a version for the Acorn Electron. They have just taken the BBC Micro version and basically packaged it as an Electron game. Because, okay, yes, it would run on an Electron, but if you look at a BBC Micro version, maybe you can somehow try and edit this into the video. If you look at the BBC Micro version next to the Electron one, you can see they look identical, and as far as I tell, the sound is identical. So they are the same game, but it is showing just how much slower the Electron is as a computer compared to the BBC. Neither of them are gaming computers, even though the BBC was basically the definitive version of Elite. But
if you want to see real carnage and slowdown, if you look at the bit where you get to the end of the gate, well, the particular video that we're watching, if you zoom to sort of 7 minutes, if you view to 7 minutes, he's just reached the end of the gate and just everything just absolutely grinds to a standstill. There's about how many soldiers? 6, and if you notice, some of them are just disappearing.
Yeah. It's just, there's far too much happening on screen. The computer just cannot do it.
No, and I think it's not. We're not being disrespectful to the Electron. I'm sure it's a fantastic little machine, but to try and this game should never have been released in its present form. I'm quite sure. I think Electron obviously had different resolutions. I'm quite sure they could have come up with something that may not have, I was going to say looked as nice, but that's maybe bending the truth slightly. Something that's actually not going to play. I mean, I don't know how many frames per second this is playing at, but maybe five, something like that.
I'm thinking about 2 to 3. It's as slow as that. I mean, yeah, that like I say, that is the big problem. They really needed to, go through the code and basically get rid of absolutely everything that wasn't essential to, have the game run. There's just far too much here, and for a computer that just can't do it.
I don't know if they've cut the AI out of the soldiers as well, but they just seem to kind of mill about on their own free will. They don't really seem to be.
I'm just seeing that here. In this video, the player is not moving at all, and the soldiers are all moving around him, but not even attempting to actually get to him. So, they certainly cut out AI from this.
I'm thinking they maybe consulted the Kenny Dalglish soccer team and says, "Can we borrow your AI lads?"
Yeah, I think they launched the AI programmers from that one.
Like I says, I do feel a wee bit bad. We're not slagging Electron. I'm sure the Electron was a cracking little machine.
The Electron did have its strong points, definitely.
Yeah.
But this wasn't one of them.
This was just too much for it, and the poor little guy struggled big time, and it resulted in this complete and utter unplayable mess. And they were, like I said, they're probably charging. I don't know how much this retailed for. Chances are it probably went for even more than the Spectrum version, and if you must have felt it was a low day as an Electron owner if you got that for your Christmas and you're looking at your mate's Commodore 64 one and you're like, really? So it's with a heavy heart, I would have to say, that Commodore Commando on the Electron takes third place in our 10 worst video game arcade conversions of all time.
It's pretty bad that if you had a computer and a game for it, and people with green beret on their Commodore 16 could still laugh at you while you try to play it. Yeah. But this does it.
Yeah, okay, that's number 3. So we've looked at 8. We're down to the final 2.
Yeah, final 2.
Yes. So we've got you're going to be spoiled with these last 2. Let me just bring the video up. This next one now. The arcade game that it's based on was not the best game in the world. The unusual thing was the arcade game did go on to spawn, which one of probably the most longest standing games ever. We're still getting games.
So, certainly as far as the series goes, because it's still going today.
Yeah. Now, if you know this game's bad because I've already featured it in possibly the worst game ever feature that I've got, and it is Street Fighter on the Commodore Amiga. Yes. Now I've a little anecdote about this game which I've recounted in many times. I'm turning into my dad. I'm repeating myself over and over again, telling the same stories. But this particular game, it came out. When did it come out? 1991. But well, that's Street Fighter 2, it says here. I don't know when it came out, 1990, something like that, possibly? 89?
Somewhere between, say, 88 and 90, somewhere around that.
Something like that. I had not long got a Commodore Amiga, and because of the price of games, were what they were, my mate and I, we would decide what game we were going to buy every month. And usually it would be, you'd look at the magazines or look at the graphics, whatever. So we went into Edinburgh one day, into Virgin Megastore, going through the games, and we looked at the back of this box and we're like, wow, look, check out the graphics in this bad boy. Look at it compared to the Commodore 64. This is going to be amazing. So we handed over I don't know, was it $24.99, whatever it was.
Yeah, 25, 30
something
quid.
like that. Now you need to remember, $24.99. To put it into context, I was earning just over £2,000 in 1985. So that was, I don't know, it was probably almost about a quarter of what I was earning.
Today's money, about 60 quid.
Aye, something like that. So we jumped in the bus, came back home. He went through, my mate decided that I'll go and make a cup of tea, you load it up and see how you get on. By the time he came through, I had actually completed the game. And I broke the news to him. I says, I know this is your game, I've just completed it and it is shit. And I think he had one game of it, and I don't think we ever looked at it again. So why is a game that looks so good so bad? Well, look at
it. Yeah.
Just look at it.
Occasionally a game comes along and you really do not need to use any words. Just, watching the game run tells you absolutely everything you need to know. I was never a fan of Street Fighter to begin with. I've never been a fan of any of the Street Fighter games. Largely because I only ever played it a couple of times down south in arcades. So the place was actually invaded with Street Fighter arcade cabinets. And they had the version with, I'm sure you've seen this one, with the really big buttons where apparently the harder you press the button... Yeah. And it was totally unplayable with those things. Every time I saw anyone playing it, all they could do was basically have the character crouching, and they'd be constantly hammering away on either the punch or kick button, waiting for the enemy to come towards them and hope they hit them. That was all they could do. So I always thought the game was an unplayable load of cobblers to begin with. And then along came the computer conversions.
It wasn't that. The original game wasn't a particularly good game. I think it was all about the unique control system. As you say, it was kind of pressure sensitive. The harder you hit it, supposedly reflected how hard. So I don't know how they would even transfer that across to home version, because you've only got either a button's getting pressed or it's not getting pressed. There was no such thing as analog. But it wasn't a particularly deep brawler to begin with. I'm not a fan of fighting games, but I can see why people enjoy Street Fighter 2. It's like an art. You've got different buttons, you've got different moves, you've got to learn skills. This was very, very, very basic. So it wasn't the greatest arcade game, but you just, as you say, Chris, you just have to look at this thing running.
Yeah.
Statically wise, it looks fine. Lackey, if you look at him going from a standing to then doing a kick, there's no animation, none at all. It's just boom boom. It's just like it flicks between. It's like there's none at all. Lack of frame
graphics wise, you think about it, Barbarian on the Commodore 64, which came out, was it 86? So, at least 2 years before this did, that had far more animation in it. And that was for an inferior computer. It's not even a conversion. So if Barbarian could do it, why couldn't this? Well, I'm sure a better version than this could have been done, and comparatively
what annoys me about this kind of game is there was an absolute plethora of games like this. People, when we'd gone from 8-bit graphics to something like this, companies thought that they didn't have to put any effort into making games particularly good. I mean, we've all played them. We've played Crazy Cars. We've played all these games that look amazing. But and you think, well, you know what? Chuck a few digitised sounds in. We're giving them glorious graphics. Who cares? They'll gladly hand over the $24.99, which I did. There was absolutely no effort went into.
I can only think of 2 examples where that worked. Barbarian, as I've already mentioned, the Palace one, that worked. The Amiga one was great. And I've just forgotten what the other one was. So keep going, I'll see if I can remember it.
But yeah, apart from, I mean, the fact that the movement is so jerky, there's so
I remembered the other one.
There's so, you remember that?
IK Plus.
What's that?
IK Plus.
Oh, aye, yeah.
They were the only 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this game, there's due to the lack of frame rate, it's almost impossible to really, you can't block or anything. To try and time your moves, whatever, you're just hammering the fire button.
Exactly, yeah.
The scrolling is diabolical. It's absolutely woeful. It's I'm just trying. Yeah, I mean, it's you get to the edge of the screen and it just kind of judders along. I mean, no effort at all went into this thing. And then you've also got, apart from, even if it did play nicely, the fact that I was able to complete it literally within 5 minutes. Now, I know you're probably saying, well, you could play with different characters, but I had already seen everything the game had to offer.
Exactly, yeah.
Within 5 minutes.
The game has.
And it was $24.99 that I was never ever going to get back again. But the biggest criticism, I mean, you can criticise a game for being too easy, but the biggest criticism for me about this game is just look at it. Just look at it. This is a Commodore Amiga we're talking about. It's woeful, and it's they're charging top dollar for this. Who actually released this one? Was it?
Well, it was a US Gold distribution, but I'm not sure who it was that actually did the conversion. Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I've no idea. I mean, it's so bad, I'm tempted to say it was Tiertex.
I can't remember. Something's niggling me about who released it. Doesn't matter. You know what? I'm actually looking at this, and I think, looking at the graphics, I mean, to be fair, the static graphics are quite nicely done. Look at the shading and all that kind of stuff. I'm wondering if it would have been a big ask to actually animate this any smoother. So...
No, I don't think it would have been asking much at all.
I don't know, so they might have been better off going for a more basic... I mean, obviously, the graphics for Barbarian are far simpler, but at least it was capable of animating it smoothly. They've literally, I mean, it's each character's got 2 frames of animation. I mean, look at him when he does a somersault. You can't even tell what way he's doing, it's just like...
Yes, I mean... like you say, there isn't any animation. When he's doing the somersault, it's basically, right, he's sort of, curled up, head's up on the top. Next frame, his head's, upside down.
It's just like flipping straights.
So it looks like they went every corner they possibly could when it came to, the entire building.
It would have been bad enough if this game, it could have possibly been acceptable if this had been a sideways scroller platform game or something, but considering that this was a this was supposedly meant to be a time. These kind of games are fast paced. It's all about twitch. It's all about reaction time, blocking, punching, kicking, whatever it is. It's impossible to play a game like that when it's executed as badly as this thing is.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'm rather fortunate. I've never played the Amiga version, but I had seen videos.
I think you should actually. I think you should do a video of. I think you should do a long play video of this actually. I look forward to watching it.
If there's anybody who is lacking in gaming skills that they couldn't complete this, even if it was an hour-long video, I'm the one.
So you know what? I think we've all seen quite enough of this game. We didn't even have to say anything. We could have just said, Street Fighter Amiga, take it away, lads. Woeful in every way. Graphics look nice, but It's obviously just simply too much for the programmers, you know, and it's resulted in a game that's just it plays awful, far too easy, and it just there's no skill at all. I'm not a beat 'em up fan at all, and I managed to complete it in one go, and I don't think I ever went back to it. I'll actually need to see if I can find my receipt down the back of the settee, and
see if you can take it back now. Yeah.
So that's number 2 in our 10 worst ever arcade video game ports, things, whatever we've called it. Yeah. So the very, very last one, Chris, we did, as I said, we discussed this for a good solid couple of hours. I can't remember how many, was it maybe about 25 games we had to begin with?
I think it was somewhere in that region, but I do seem to recall that it didn't take us very long to come up with what game would be in the number 1 spot.
No.
And let's be honest, I think an awful lot of people will probably have guessed which one it is going to be. So, well, I get the honours, I guess, to announce this one. Number 1, it is Cisco Heat for the Commodore 64. Never has a game deserved a number 1 spot more than this thing does. The thing I think anyone has to always keep in mind with this particular conversion, this came out in 1991. The Commodore 64 was 9 years old, and we had seen the amount of progress in game coding from the games in 82, like say Motor Mania, which I thought was great but unbelievably basic, and it had gone all the way through to, you know, really ambitious stuff like, well, say Whizball, or say some of the flight simulators that we got, you know, Project Stealth Fighter and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So gaming had absolutely, you know, just been completely transformed during that time,
including some fantastic driving games. Don't forget, I mean, we had stuff like early games like Pit Stop 2.
Yeah, even the earlier stuff, yeah, Pit Stop 2, even the original Pit Stop I do quite like.
Yeah,
of course, Super Cycle.
I mean, Super Cycle is probably one of the, you know, it's probably one of the finest racing games on the C64. I've never actually played. Have you played Lotus Turbo Esprit? Turbo
on
Challenge?
64, yeah.
How does that stack up?
Perhaps unsurprisingly, it's not as good as the Amiga version.
No, I wouldn't have
but
expected
that does not mean it's not a good game. It's a great racer on the 64.
Is it?
If you've not played it, you absolutely have to.
I'll absolutely need to go and check that out. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, this came out. What, probably a good couple of years after all these games.
Yeah. So, where do you start? Well, I've got a video playing.
I've got your video. I'm at 46 seconds at the moment. They're on the start line, ready to go.
Yeah.
And can I say, if I saw that screenshot of all the cars, you've got your car, and you've got another 6 police cars around you, I would say, wow, check out that.
Well, if you look at the cars, yeah, they don't look bad when they're static. Unfortunately, if you look up a little bit to the city skyline that's ahead of you, yeah, it goes downhill quite rapidly. I mean,
not quite literally.
I freely admit, I've never been to San Francisco, so it may be that the bright purple ziggurat temple that we can see in the background there is a major, you know, tourist attraction in San Francisco somewhere. I've just never seen it. You know, same with the big green tower block there. I you know, I must have been looking at all the wrong, you know, film and video footage of. So the background graphics are just horrendous. But yeah, like you say, the cars when they're stationary don't look too bad.
You've even got a little blinking siren things at the top as well, which is a nice little touch.
Yeah, so there is a sort of attention to detail, sort of. But if we flick the video on to around 2:45, The race gets underway, and immediately, what the? I've got to do a lot of self-censoring with this one, haven't I?
It's actually hard to tell what happened there. It's just like, wow.
I've moved it back so I can catch the start again because it just goes absolutely haywire right from the word go. The cars, all of them, are just floating around, and there's no actual sense of the cars moving along the road. It's just 1 minute they're one place, the next minute they're somewhere. They move more like UFOs than they do,
There's no continuity as to where as you say, they're all lining up, and then as soon as they move, they just go. They're not moving straight forwards. There's no. Dearie me.
And when they're by the side of the road, they have a big border around them, which, depending on whereabouts in the road they're being rendered, that border will either be another part of the stripy roads, road stripes again, or it might be part of the turquoise that's either side of you. I don't know, maybe you're supposed to be near water or something. So suddenly the visuals on the cars have gone from being, okay, to being absolute, well...
The movement is so juddery that it's absolutely impossible to have any scaly movement, and even the perspective. Some of the cars are, what I appear to be further away, are actually larger than some of the ones that are closer. But the movement is so erratic. It's just, it's.
And then when you're playing the game, you realise that this sort of erratic, totally nonsensical movement isn't just limited to the computer cars. Your car also has this amazing talent. There is no difference in the sense of speed whether you're doing 50, it's kilometres now, isn't it? So whether you're doing 50 kmh or if you're doing the top speed, which I think is 140, it just feels exactly the same all the time from the moment you actually start moving.
It's actually hard. If you look at the stripes in the road, they almost look like they're going the other way. They're actually going backwards. There's no sense of movement.
Yeah. There is no point actually trying to avoid any oncoming cars because, well, as we said, you have no idea where they are going to be in the road in the next frame. So you could sort of turn to the left, but suddenly that car's going to be there right in front of you. A lot of the time it doesn't matter anyway, you just drive straight through it regardless, but then, about 20 yards down the road you'll then crash into absolutely nothing.
The cars don't actually move. There is no... The cars don't move, they just appear and then disappear. There is no animation at all.
It's all... Yeah.
Maybe when you've got one car on the screen, I'll give it that. If there's one car on the screen, you maybe see it 3 times on the screen. When there's more than that, they just literally appear out of nowhere and then they just disappear. So it is impossible to actually navigate because they're just randomly appearing out of thin air.
And then you get the next big problem, which is again connected with the sense of speed or lack thereof. You are driving along, your speed hasn't changed, and suddenly you will overtake every single car that's in this race and find yourself in position number 1. Carry on going for, a couple of 100 yards, and then suddenly, even though you've not slowed down or anything at all, every other car then suddenly manages to rush past you or, really dot around all over the place as they move past you, and suddenly you're in last place again. Even though you haven't done a fucking thing.
And as far as we've not even touched on that yet. As far as there's kind of 2 ways generally there's usually 3 ways to convey speed in a racing game. You've got a texture on the road, and in this case the sort of stripes. If they're moving silky smooth towards you, it gives you an impression of speed. That was one of the popular ones. You've got the roadside obstacles, which if they move nice and smoothly, gives a conversion the convey speed. Then you've got how smooth the cars come towards you to do that as well. But the roadside obstacles, literally, I'm just trying to count here. I mean, 1, 2, 3. It's you get it appearing at the furthest point in the background, and then it appears in the middle, and then it appears at the front, and it's gone. It's like bump, 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 bump.
And there are occasions where they seem to be floating up in the air, even though you've actually gone down the hill, so they should be down with you, but no, they're still up in the air. Like, so
I've just noticed as well, there seems to be a complete lack of proper sprite collision, because I mean you're driving through cars are coming up from behind you, going straight through you. I just seemed the car in this video just seemed to flip in the air for absolutely no apparent reason.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, there's no point even attempting to try and avoid cars coming towards you, because 9 times out of 10 you'll just drive straight through them, no problem. But then, as you've just seen in the video there, suddenly your car will crash for no reason at all. It will just, it does that. Well, it's supposed to be rolling, but with as many frames of animation as we had in Amiga Street Fighter, so it looks really great.
But I mean, really, there's about the only redeemable feature in this game that I can see is your car sprite from the back looks quite nice, and there's quite a nice little rendition of the Fourth Road Bridge at the top underneath the score. But everything else is just woeful. And again, as we keep saying, Chris, at what point did somebody? Because I'm quite sure when they have meetings, right? This is right, guys. We've got the latest arcade game. We're going to be converting this game, Cisco Heat. This is what you need. It's got cars in it in San Francisco. It needs to be fast. It needs to be fun. Go away. Come back in 6 months. Show what you've got. The C64 guys have presented this. And at what point did they all think, you know what? That's fine.
That's the amazing. That is the amazing thing. Not only did the Commodore 64 programmers think, right, okay, we'll present this to Mr. Head Honcho. Not only did they think that was worth doing, but Mr. Head Honcho has seen this and said, "Yep, that's it. Yeah, we'll release that." So 2 of them have had to actually, give the go-ahead to publish this. I thought it was interesting, something you mentioned just then. I don't know if you mentioned it intentionally or not. That is quite a good graphical representation of the Fourth Road Bridge at the top there. Unfortunately, this is supposed to be San Francisco, so...
Hang on. Wait a minute now. I wouldn't normally do this, but I'm looking at your video, and if you cut to 10:42 and pause it,
right.
I think a bit of naming and shaming's in order.
Oh, right, here we go.
You see it?
10.
10:42.
You failed to 42. All right, okay, yes, here we go. It was written by ICE Software.
ICE?
Programmed. I can't believe these people have actually had the nerve to put their names to it.
Maybe they were forced to do it so that they didn't come back, so that whoever it was released this one for Money Davis.
Either that, or where it has programmed by James McDonald. Maybe James McDonald is the gaming equivalent of John Smithy from the film directors. But anyway, so he's there, produced by Ian Morrison. Graphics. The graphics designer actually wanted his name put onto this. Alan Greer. One other amazing graphical, shall we say, graphical feature of this game, which we haven't mentioned yet, is when you go round the 90-degree turns, which was the Klonops' main sort of unique selling point sort of thing. So you go around this 90-degree turn, but all the buildings in the background stay exactly where they are. I don't quite know how that works. So San Francisco must be a weird fucking place. That's all I'm saying.
I notice here it says that ImageWorks is a brand name of Mirrorsoft, so maybe they were trying to recoup all the bloody lost pension money, and they thought we'll need to just. They had at that point they had lost all morals. I mean, if I was James McDonald and Ian Morrison and Alan Greer, I mean, I would have felt quite ashamed knowing that this was getting released to the general public. We don't normally get personal with these things, but I mean, seriously, guys, if anybody, I can't say I've actually ever heard of ICE software. And I've never seen these guys' names on anything else. What we might have to do is actually have a wee look.
I think we might be looking at the reason why we've never seen their names on anything else, actually.
It beggars belief that a company. I mean, this game has been. I wonder if companies like Jaleco get to see the whole. I wouldn't think they would. I wouldn't think they'd be interested. They would get their 50 grand license money.
Exactly.
And say,
that's it. Yeah. All they're interested in is getting paid for the license, and after that, they couldn't give a monkey's toss. So, but I mean, the actual coin-op version is a bit of a weird concept to begin with. I mean,
it's quite good fun to play, though, I have to say. It's not a bad game.
I've never played it. I've seen it a few times. I think we did have it in Southend, and. But it is. I mean, why are police cars racing against each other in the first place? That's one bit that always has me sort of wondering. What is going on here? But I mean, I guess it was just trying to put some sort of like novelty twist on the racing game, which wasn't.
I think what you actually find, Chris, it actually tells you at the start that Dunkin' Donuts actually closes in half an hour, so it's a race to get to the donut shop before it shuts.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
It's laughable, whilst also being an absolute insult. I mean, they did charge full price for this. They wanted 10 quid for this. In fact, in 1991, I think the price of Commodore 64 games had gone up by then. So I think it was 12 quid. And this is what you got for 12 quid. I say it's laughably bad, but it's an insult to anybody who bought it.
That is. Let's be honest. Let's cut to the chase. Forget the fact that this game's 35. It's easy in 2009 to kind of completely diss games from back in the day, but you loaded this up, you would have been within. As soon as the green light went, you would know that you've made a mistake.
Yeah.
You would never play it again because it's completely unplayable.
I know around that time, actually, I mean, it always has been. It's a real pain in the arse to try and take games back once you've bought them from whatever shop. I'm sure there must have been plenty of people who tried to take this thing back, though. That's assuming there were plenty of people who bought it. I mean, it did quite rightly get an absolute mauling in every single review that there ever was of it. I'm trying to remember, what was the name that Zap64 became around that time?
Something.
Commodore Force or something.
Yeah.
And they gave this 9%, which I think is still overrated.
I'm glad to hear that. I mean, it wouldn't have surprised me if this was one of these games they tried to force out. They wouldn't give copies.
I wouldn't give review copies. So actually, now you mention it, yeah, I'm a bit surprised they actually gave review copies of this out. Surely they would have just said, look, just get it out on the quiet. Don't, whatever you do, give it to any magazine.
It's actually, I mean, computer games is quite unique insofar as, if this was an electric kettle, it would be made of like rubber, and as soon as you put water in it, it would just go bleh, and the plug only had one thing. It wouldn't switch on. You couldn't put water in it. It was completely unusable. You wouldn't get away with that if you were selling a kettle that wouldn't hold water. Yeah, video games, they obviously, Mr. McDonald, Morrison and Greer obviously felt there was nothing wrong with this. To be fair, I'm not even going to begin to defend these guys. No, I was going to say they were on a hiding to nothing. They could have. This game could have been a million times better.
Yeah, they obviously couldn't have got the coin-op visuals right, but the gameplay they could have got right. It wasn't that demanding a job to convert this, and this is what they came up with.
You
I
could.
think it says more about how good those three are at programming a Commodore 64 than it does about the actual original game.
You quite literally couldn't have actually made a worse game. If you said let's have a competition to make the worst Cisco Heat conversion ever, then this would walk it
The
hand.
official one would win it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming is that Alcatraz in the right hand side, top right.
Who knows with this? I mean, it could be, part of bloody Rock Hall for all I know. I mean,
You know when you look at the sort of the score at the top, there's actually been more an effort gone into so you've got the time. The time is it's big yellow letters, numbers, and it's all quite graduated, and it's quite a pleasant little sort of banner at the top. There's more effort's gone into that than the actual game.
yeah, I think in any other part of the game. Actually, that reminds me. Look next to the time where you have the low and high gear, because the game has no sound effects. It's just the music, and I say music quite loosely because it sounds like they got the rhythm and bass part, but forgot to actually put the melody on top of it. So you have no engine sound, so you have no idea if you're in low or high gear. You have to constantly keep referring to the panel at the top just to know what gear you're in. You can't go by the speeds you're travelling because it looks the bloody same no matter what.
Cisco Heat, I think it should have been called Fiasco Heat possibly, or Fiasco Shite maybe, I don't know.
I can think up a lot of very suitable names for this one. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty much out of words. I think I've never. I mean, here's one, Chris. If you were flung into a jail cell, a jail cell, and you were given two games, you had to play one for the rest of your life, and it was Auf Wiedersehen, Pet or Cisco Heat. What would you go for?
Oh, what a... I'd be asking them to put me on death row, I think, rather than, take that.
I would actually go for Auf Wiedersehen, Pet, because at least there was a choice of shit. Whereas this, within 5 seconds, you're out.
Yeah.
It's not even a game. It's not even a game. It's just a unholy mess.
Yeah. I think that is a pretty good summing up of it. An unholy mess. Yeah.
So hey, listen, I think we've done that one to death as well. So that is our top 10. That's our 10 worst arcade conversion games ever. I'm quite sure we could probably come up with another 10. Probably not quite so good as Cisco Heat, but
whatever we came up with, Cisco Heat would still stay number one.
I would think so. I think that's pretty much head and shoulders. That's taken it. That was like 2 laps in front of anybody else. So anyway, guys, that's another video. I don't know how long this one's run for. Not quite as long as the 4-hour behemoth, but I know from the feedback I'm seeing against these videos that you guys seem to enjoy it. As we keep saying, Chris and I keep saying, yeah, we do stand by our comments that we make. We do genuinely believe the games that we talk about are in lists for whatever it is. But ultimately, we make these games for entertainment value. And if it helps, watching one of these videos helps to bring a smile to somebody, cheer up their day, you're a sick puppy. But our job is done. So I just want to thank Chris for taking part in another one of these videos. We'll no doubt be sitting down at some point in the future for another one, probably the next couple of weeks.
I think so, yes. Very likely.
So it just remains for me to say, guys, thank you very, very much for watching.